we've only described less than 10% of all the fungal species on the planet, which means that more than 90% of fungal life is unknown. And although what you see here are mushrooms, these mushrooms are just the reproductive structures produced by some fungi. But most fungi live most of their lives as networks of tubular cells called mycelial networks. And these aren't works of threads, they're networks of tubes. These tubes flow rivers of fluid, rivers carrying nutrients, energy, signaling compounds, genetic material, the soup of life. And these networks are able to explore and remodel themselves. They live in the terrifying labyrinths of the soil. They live in vast areas. They live on tiny specks of dust. They live in the ocean. They live in rivers. They live all over the world. And these rivers of cellular fluid form a circulatory system that is really one of the wonders of the living world. It's an ancient life support system that we depend on entirely. And there's so much of this mycelial material in the world that if you just took the top 15 centimeters of the world's soils, the top 15 centimeters of the world's soils, and you look at only one group of fungi, you would find 130 quadrillion kilometers of fungal network, which is millions of times the distance between the Earth and the Sun. And if you were traveling at the speed of light, it would take 11.5 years to travel that distance. And if you're traveling by commercial airplane, it would take 14 billion years, which is the current age of the universe. And that's just one group of fungi. That's nothing close to the full picture. So these organisms are making so much of life as we know it. And one of the ways that they make life as we know it is by forming relationships. One of the relationships that they form is with plants. Some fungi live in the roots of plants and they behave like plant root systems. In fact, they were plant root systems for hundreds of millions of years until plants evolved their own roots. These are called mycorrhizal fungi. And almost every plant that lives in association with these fungi, and these fungi do something that the plants can't do. Chemical wizards that branch and fuse their way through the labyrinth of the soil, making soil, holding soil together, and feeding plants. And plants can do something that the fungi can't do. They can photosynthesize. The miracle of photosynthesis. And so the plants feed the fungi, and the fungi feed the plants. And out of this relationship, everything we think of as life on land springs. And this relationship illustrates something profound about how life happens. Everything changes when organisms come together and find new ways to relate. So how can we reimagine our relationships, whether with humans or non-humans, as we look to the future of life on a damaged planet. How can we reimagine the ways we relate? Reimagine the ways we relate. Reimagine the ways we relate and relate into possibility. Create new possibilities. Fungi are creating new possibilities right now, right here.
Merlin Sheldrake. Yeah. Yes. Merlin will be back. We're gonna do a little interlude right now and actually plug into some fungi. That sound like a good idea? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So this is gonna be decided by you. We have 3 beautiful cultures that have been brought in by Earthling in Bangkok, grown somewhat locally. A lion's mane here, an oyster here, and then a barely visible but quite spectacular pink oyster. And so we'll do this by show of hands to see which one we want to plug into. Who wants the lion's mane? Oh, okay, some lion's mane fans. What about the oyster mushroom? Less people. And what about the pink oyster? Okay, we have a winner. Fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna move the pink oyster up a little bit so you can actually see what's going on here. And if you haven't seen these thank you. If you haven't seen these bags before, these cultured bags, what Merlin was talking about, the fruiting bodies are these beautiful fruiting bodies up top, but there's mycelium is all the sort of white stuff you see here. So the actual living, growing organism is in the bag, and then the fruits or the flowers are up top here. So that's where I'm gonna plug into and see what we've got. Let's do this. Okay, in with one. And yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable to clap. Why not? Show them some love. Okay, so I often get asked if there's a difference, and I'm sure many of you are thinking this, if there's a difference between the patterns that emerge from different mushrooms, like would we be able to tell them apart, let's say. So let's give that a little test ourselves. Let's listen for a few seconds again to the pink oyster, and then I'll switch over to the lion's mane and we'll see if there's a difference. How's that? Okay, so here we are. Pink oyster. We're listening to kind of the activity level and the way that the notes are moving together. So thoughtful. Okay, here we go, lion's mane. Yeah? Okay. Oysters? Let's do them too. Oysters, yeah. Here we go. Yeah? Okay. So the other fun thing that we can do, because I've got a bunch of cables up here, is actually connect these together. So I can take this big long cable and see if I've got enough. Yeah, there we go. Oop. Okay, I'm gonna bring this a little bit closer. And then I've got one of these, if you can't see, I've got like the orange cable is kind of going in between the lion's mane and the pink oyster. And then I'll take one of each of these sides of this electrode. Things are getting complicated. And now when I plug into the lion's mane, we're going to listen to kind of the sum total of the music. The music is going to be an expression of the sum total of the bioelectric fluctuations that we're... Yeah, there we go. I don't think we can clap enough for the fungal kingdom, so I think it's great to clap. And I think we could use one extra step is to include a human being in this kind of artificial mycelium that's happening here. Do there happen to be any kids here, like little kids? No? You're a kid? Okay, well then we'll have a kid adjacent if there's someone. Sure, yeah, why don't you come up? Yeah. Okay, sure, kid adjacent, there you go. You're a kid, okay. So I'm gonna unplug this cable, and you can just come right up front. And if you sort of make your way to the front over there. There we go, what's your name? Mia. Mia, make some noise for Mia. So Mia, if you touch one of your hands to this mushroom and the other to that mushroom, one hand there. Yeah, you put your hand on it, yeah, and then the other hand here. So now you are the bridge. So the electricity is going through your body, through these mushrooms, and creating sound. So now you're in control. This is kind of your keyboard. And you can raise your hand. If you raise one of your hands, it will stop. Yeah, so you have control. Yeah. Yeah. So have fun, and we'll see if I can do a little something with this. Make some noise for Nina. This is my friend Ruby Singh. For this, yes, there we go, Ruby Singh. For this next piece, Ruby actually, okay guys, calm down, calm down. For this next piece, we're going to use an underground recording that Ruby recorded with 2 geophones. So we're gonna hear this like kind of bass rumbling underneath us right now, and that bass is a recording straight from the soil. So do you hear that rumble? Can you hear that up front? Yeah? So this is an underground recording with 2 geophones, and I'm gonna hand it over to Ruby.
Thank you, brother. What more of this body can we give? Leaf, branch, and root, all in sacrifice for you. When will you understand We live for each other. You look for visions. We listen for change. The transformation needed. We render each other anew. A biochemical reaction for your tongue. A spectral ray of knowing each other. Intimately, the frequencies reflect off your surface. A chapel of light and mirrors. We are a patient tree. We are a patient tree, planted to give fruit to another generation. Sometimes we live a bitter present for a sweet future. The mystery is calling. The hummingbird's tongue, the butterfly's wing, the bee's attunement, the pollinators hold the tender spaces for life's breath. Breathe in life's breath. You are life's breath. Let us be held by this land. Let it open a portal in you. The temple bells of your heart are ringing. Just follow the harmonics. Follow the harmonics. An estuary of bioelectric current craves connection. Patch into this body of work. Find root in sky. Find breath and exchange. In this pact, known long before your first inhale, the bursts of transcendent light transport us to the more than human. Breathe in this damp earth or this dusty earth. Breathe in whatever earth you stand upon. Hold the joy it offers close, fertile in lessons, in peace, in ease. Of life, death, and decay. Our world of interdependence. The symphony of relations. The polyphony of us all. We are because we are. The microbe, the spore, the intimacy. Humble ourselves before deep time. Can we learn to decompose this domination, decompose this separation, decompose this despair? A child's sight is needed, the tender reach of imagination towards what this work could be and what this world could be. If grief is what love becomes, then despair, it's the depth of our connection. The depth of our connection. The depth.
Ruby Singh. Yeah. Merlin, I wonder if you would help take us underground at this point. Maybe we'll plug the mushrooms back in for this.
We're going underground. Underground, where more than half of all of the species on the planet live. Underground. In a wild, wet world, frothing with life. So many ways to be, so many ways to feel. So many ways to explore, so many ways to know, so many ways to eat underground, so many ways to be underground. It's dark underground. It's a labyrinth underground. And underground is where the magic happens. Which is why, perhaps, in so many human cultures there are stories of people who go underground, myths about going underground and coming back to tell the story of what happens underground. But there are many stories that happen underground, because underground is a wild, wet world. So much that we'll never know happens underground. Imagine for a moment, if you can, your fingertip growing into a long finger, growing from its tip, making a long finger, and then that finger starting to poke around underground, and then that fingertip becomes two fingertips, and now you've got two fingertips poking around underground, and those two fingertips each become two more fingertips poking around underground, and again two more. And now there are lots of your fingertips poking around underground. And they start running into other fingertips. Maybe they're your fingertips, maybe not. But you've got to know,
just on tour in Australia, and about 3 or 4 months ago, we were sitting around in the summertime, and I invited him to come to Thailand to come to my favorite festival, Wonderfruit. It is the best festival in the world, right? We're at the best festival. And I invited him to come. I was like, you gotta see this place, it's so cool. And he's like, wait a second, hold on. I'm actually in Australia until December 11th. I could just fly home through Thailand. And so he literally finished tour the next morning, popped into Bangkok, came here, and he's with us here tonight for a couple of nights. And it's so special to get to perform with both Merlin and Ruby Singh, one of my oldest friends. And now I'd like to welcome Sage Bava to the stage.
I'm going to do a song that Tarun and I wrote together about becoming a mushroom. I'd love if you would sing with me and the mushrooms on the chorus. It goes something like this. Wrap you up, bring you down, take you to the underground. We could be a mycelium. Oh, will you come? If I could photosynthesize, I'd see with skin and not my eyes. I'd eat the sun and oxygen. You breathe it out, I breathe it in. If I could be a mycelium, you'd hunt for my secret mushroom. I grow and stretch and call to you. Happily your body I consume. Wrap you up, bring you down, take you to the underground. We could be a mycelium. Oh, will you come? Ooh, oh, will you come? We could be mycelium. Oh, will you come? I'll hold you close like populace. You're as sweet as Amarillo. We'll grow like chrysothrics, or even like a gola. No difference between the two of us. Between the two of us, I wish there was the two of us. Wrap me up, bring you down, bring you to the underground. We could be a mycelium. Oh, will you come? Oh, will you come? We could be a mycelium. Ooh,
All right, we have Sage Bava. We have a few minutes left before we release you into the wilds, and I figured I'd plug into this. This oyster has not gotten a lot of love so far, so I'm going to do one final small piece with this oyster mushroom. And again, thank you all for coming. It's been a real treat to play the show for you with some really good friends and just at this wonderful festival. So this is, now we present you Oyster. Let's see what happens. That's actually really interesting. There's like a bass line coming to this. So I thought perhaps we could finish again with another quick thought meditation. Just bring us back into the same place together. And perhaps again we could start off by closing our eyes and finding a comfortable position as we listen to this oyster mushroom burble. Some position into which you can relax, perhaps even become mycelial. And we'll put on that 5-year-old brain again. With our eyes closed, let's all just remember a place outside that we have a real attachment to. A place that we, perhaps it's a backyard of a home that we grew up in, or our favorite forest, or a city park. And just imagine that we're back there. Bring to mind all of the smells and the colors and the sounds of that particular location. And let's make ourselves comfortable in this spot that we can bring to our minds. So whatever the location is, let's take a seat, sit down on the earth, relax our bodies, and perhaps go even further and lie down in that location. And instead of lying on our backs, we're gonna lie on our stomachs with our noses pressed into the earth. So I'm not asking you to do this in real life, but you can, of course. But since we're doing this imaginarily, don't be afraid to get yourselves dirty. Our face in the earth, what does that smell like? What does it bring to mind? Rich earth, soil. Inhaling so deeply, allowing this land to hold us so tightly that we slowly let our bodies go. Allowing our cells to become less solid, allowing gravity to pull us down into the earth, allowing ourselves to dissociate and actually go underground. Allowing ourselves to become the soil, become the earth. And as we let ourselves get bigger and expand into this darkness, this mystery of the underground, we realize that we are alive. Our body is massive, spanning the entire globe, reaching all the way down to the Earth's mantle, with roots as our veins, mycelium as our system, and billions of microorganisms as our metabolism. We are eating rock. We are turning this ball, this orb in space, into a living, breathing organism. We are soil. We are darkness. What does that feel like in our bodies to let go, to be soil? Tonight, just encouraging us all to remember this living earth around us, this community of life, this soil, this richness. It's so beautiful to be at a festival that really appreciates the natural environment. So honored and grateful to be here sharing what gives me hope, what allows me to be resilient. Is this knowledge that we're not alone, we're a part of a living system that is so much bigger than ourselves. 4.2 billion years of experimentation in this project of life. We are all a part of it together. Thank you so much. My name is Modern Biology. We also had Merlin Sheldrake, Sage Bava, Ruby Singh Sidhu. The wonderful staff is so supportive. Rowan on stage management, all the sound folks, lighting folks. Have a wonderful rest of your night.